Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vance.
Oh no, I forgot. We've been a week off. I don't have an Alpha Flight coat. Shit.
That's your quote. Too late. We got Chris.
Out of the way. I'm with Alpha Flight.
All right, I'm Kia. Hi, we're talking about Alpha Flight. Wow, this is the first time that both quotes included the words of the comic that we're reading.
Oh, I got a better one.
You got one?
Yeah, I busted my buns to be an Alpha Flight.
Right. Still includes Alpha Flight. I love it. Can you guess what we're talking about? It's Alpha Flight.
Omega
Flight. Welcome to the show. Canadian Thanksgiving is coming up right around the corner. What better way to honor Canada than by reading a comic book? We are reading about Canada's premier superhero team, Alpha Flight. We're going to read their first appearance from Uncanny X-Men number 120, which was in like 1979, I think. And then we're going to read the first 4 issues of their ongoing series, which was written and drawn by John Byrne in 1983. I had never really read anything Alpha Flight other than maybe if they had guest starred in something or other here and there, you know. Had you guys read any of their?
So the first time I ever saw Alpha Flight was when they got killed in New Avengers, like off panel, by Brian Michael Bendis, and people were like,
I don't even remember them getting killed in that. Jeez,
there was like Sasquatch was there and somebody else. They were in the snow. I want to say it was like the second or third arc of New Avengers, so probably like around like issue 11 or 12, from like probably 06. And I was like, I don't know who these people are, and apparently they're all dead, and the internet is mad. But it didn't help. And then I think his frequent collaborator Mike Avon Oming from Powers made a Omega Flight book after that, like a mini series. Well, it was supposed to be a long going, and they got turned into a mini series before it even started. So
also not good. I had read Alpha Flight volume 2, I think it was, the one from the 90s, a few issues of it. It was not a book that lit my world on fire. I was like, yeah, okay, this is a team book. It felt very DC in a way because it's like, these characters are interesting enough, but like it's so compartmentalized that it didn't seem like it connected to the Marvel universe. And says that's probably part of why I was like, I don't really care about this.
Yeah,
so.
I did see an Alpha Flight toy at Walmart. I texted you guys about this about a month ago. I don't know if you remember. I found a Guardian toy at Walmart, but suspiciously an Ant-Man toy was in it. And I texted you guys. I'm like, does Ant-Man look like Guardian? And like, no, apparently it's just a mistake at my Walmart. So.
Well, maybe it's like, don't they do a lot of those Build-A-Figure things, like where you collect everything from the set and you can like get a larger something or other?
Well, yeah, there was that, and then I think it was like a piece of Sasquatch with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was supposed to be a Guardian figure, clearly, but it was not. It was just Ant-Man.
Gotcha. All right, definitely a mistake. Too bad. Who's Guardian? The only guy I read about was Vindicator. All right, we'll get to that. I brought it. Actually, it's worth mentioning, the leader of Alpha Flight seems to have appeared even earlier in the X-Men, just on his own. I think they mentioned like issue 109 or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I read too in one of the editor notes. Yeah.
Yes.
And he is like the leader of this Alpha Flight group. Vindicator, aka later they call him Guardian. But Vindicator, what's his name? Hudson?
I'm going to call him Captain Canada. Because he looks like
Canada. He really is like Captain Canada.
He's like Captain Britain, Captain Canada, Captain America.
Sure.
He's got like a cool like maple leaf on his costume. He looks like honestly like a speed skater for the Olympics. Like that looks like his costume.
It really does. Yeah. And that maple leaf is like so cut up, and like I get what it's supposed to be because of the colors and because of context, but like if you just told me what that symbol was supposed to be out of the blue, I wouldn't be able to tell you. It looks like an artichoke or something. Like it's just like a weird bunch of spiky things sticking out of him. But he is the leader of Alpha Flight, but he kind of doesn't want to be because Wolverine was originally supposed to be the leader. Like that's kind of the whole setup for this Uncanny X-Men appearance, is that Wolverine was supposed to be the leader of Alpha Flight when he was this Canadian experiment, but now that he's not in Canada anymore, this government dude is like, we want him back. We're going to get him back. Go get him.
Right.
And that's kind of the story. We meet the rest of the team here. We've got the twin brother and sister. Are they twins or just brother and sister? I forget.
Oh, I don't know. It's a good question.
They asked. I feel like they asked the question in the comic, and I don't remember if they answered it. But it's North Star and Aurora. Jean-Paul Beaubier and Jean-Marie Beaubier.
Oh, I did know North Star. I did know North Star because he came out.
Beaubois? Is that how you pronounce it? Beaubois?
I would think so.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not French.
Aurora Borealis at this time of day.
I do like the North Star and Aurora names. I feel like that's a good brother-sister name combo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, North Star kind of like made some headlines later by being like not necessarily the first openly gay superhero, but they had like a superhero gay wedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
We also
and he was notable for they I don't know, you can't really tell from his appearance in this storyline because he doesn't do anything, but Byrne wrote him as gay like in the 80s and just wasn't allowed to say anything about it.
Oh, he is written kind of like as a female heartthrob, but he doesn't care about none of those ladies.
Yeah. He's Quicksilver in this.
Right. Like he's very Quicksilver, yeah.
He's he's a super fast guy who cares a lot about his sister and is kind of a snobby guy, and it's like, yeah, we've seen all of this before.
Well, I really did get so many like vibes of X-Men characters from all this. You've got the brother and sister who feel a little bit like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. You've got Sasquatch, who feels like Beast, except he can like transform into a Sasquatch, but he's also the brilliant scientist kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Snowbird, who kind of feels a lot like Storm, except white and blonde. But later she turns into a polar bear. Not what I expected. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Good
cool.
Nice bear. The best part of the Golden Compass.
And we've got Shaman, who is like again just because he's Native American, reminds me of what's that poor guy's name who died at the beginning of X-Men?
They don't use Thunderbird. They don't go by Native American though. Is it First Nations? I think that's.
Oh, is that what they? Okay.
Yeah, Canadians have their own word for it.
That's right. That's right. I'm sorry, I forget it's Canada. Oh my, that's so terrible of me. You don't. Wow, I never even stopped to consider what Native Americans in Canada would be called. I guess it's like Native North Americans. But all right, First Nation.
Yeah, I think First Nation is what they go by.
That makes sense. I feel like I've learned something today. First Nation. All right, cool. Great. And it's those 5 members plus Captain Canada up there, Vindicator, a.k.a. Guardian, a.k.a. Captain Canada.
We're gonna get some more a little later, like pretty quickly.
We are. Those are like really the new ones that come in later are the more interesting characters, I think. But we'll get to them. But for me, there's not really much worth talking about in this issue of X-Men, except that it was really funny to see like Wolverine flirting with a lady by speaking Japanese and handing her a rose and then smiling and waving by. It felt so out of character for him in a way that just like seemed like so much fun.
Yeah.
Like there's so much more we don't know about Wolverine. Who is this guy?
Yeah, and that was the appeal, I think, is the previous storyline. They're leaving Japan. He just picks up a newspaper and starts reading Japanese, and they're like, Wolverine, you speak Japanese? And he's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Because he's just kind of this, like, moron who's, like, mostly just wants to get in fights and, consumed with berserker rage. But, yeah, that he's kind of this, like, love-struck guy as soon as he meets Yuriko.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me, like, to see these periods in time when we didn't know very much about Wolverine, and to see all these little elements come out. I always enjoy that.
Was she referenced in the Wolverine, the second Wolverine solo film? I think she was called Mariko in this issue also.
I feel like those are two different, because it's the Yoshida clan, and there is a Mariko is. I don't remember.
Okay. I was like, even though like I haven't read these issues and I'm reading like Uncanny X-Men out of order, like there's still like shades of like, oh, I saw this in the cartoon, or I saw this in one of the 12 movies.
I definitely feel like I've heard the name Mariko somewhere throughout the canon, but I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. They go to Canada and they create an international incident, sort of fighting Alpha Flight at the airport.
Yeah.
And it turns into an excuse for John Byrne to draw Calgary, right? Is where they are.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Nightcrawler is like, God, Calgary's kind of a dump, but I guess we're on the run. We're not going to the nice parts.
There's some weird things in this issue though that like have nothing to do with Alpha Flight. Like Scott Summers and Colleen Wing are cuddling on a plane together.
I like read through it too fast. I didn't know who that was.
It was Colleen Wing, which I guess Claremont and Byrne were also doing Iron Fist. I don't know if around this time or like right
same
before
time.
This. So that makes sense that like they're having some type of overlap with those books. And then the dumb thing is like, I know how we'll fuck with the X-Men. We'll make a Storm. And I'm like, you have fucking Storm. They have a weather person. Like this is gonna end badly for you, like real quickly. And somehow their Storm is more powerful than her Storm. I don't understand how that's possible, but
I don't know either. I do like the Storm is like getting a little bit of a makeover inside some boutique, and she like as soon as she feels like they're being attacked, she's like, "Oh shit, here it goes," and starts destroying everything. And there's ladies in the background going, "Oh no, my poor Storm," and we don't get any sort of apology or anything from Storm. We just get like she just keeps wrecking shit.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Storm.
Yeah, thanks a lot. They're the damn villains. I'm gonna quit reading X-Men and go pick up this Alpha Flight book. They seem like real good dudes.
Yeah. And it is funny. You do get in this story that like the whole time, Guardian / Vindicator is like, I don't know about this. This is kind of stupid. And like you do get the sense that it is a very manufactured reason for them to fight. Like there's really no reason. They're just like, come on, Wolverine, come on. And then he's like, fine, okay. And then immediately escapes.
Yep. There's like one more issue where Vince, you said you read it. Anything worth noting?
No, I mean it's X-Men.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
So Alpha Flight spends about like 4 years kind of putzing about, appearing in other books, maybe having another run-in or two with the X-Men. In 1983, they get their own series. I keep wanting to say a solo series, but it's like their own standalone ongoing series. Written and drawn by John Byrne. And, I did like the premise of this going into it, where it starts off with the government dude being like, all right, well, Alpha Flight's getting shut down. We're done with it.
By Justin Trudeau's dad. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada now. His father was also the Prime Minister of Canada in the 70s
Is that
and 80s.
Did they name drop him? I didn't.
Yes, they did. They said Trudeau did this.
That's funny.
Which you could like that. Even with Marvel's sliding time scale, you could update that for right now. It's perfect.
It's true.
So they're shutting down Alpha Flight, which also includes Beta Flight, which is like the B team, as well as Gamma Flight, which is like the new recruits. Which, in that context, it had me thinking a lot about like betas in modern like context of society and like beta cucks and all that. Like, it's kind of an interesting way to phrase them. They're like the number twos. Like I get that, but like it doesn't seem so bad to be number two, you know?
Yeah, if you're not alpha male, you can be the beta male.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
better than gamma male.
Better than gamma male. But I guess if you called me a gamma male, it would sound like I was the Hulk or something. So I don't know.
They should be Omega Man, but that sounds cool. So
that has like a finality to it. But you're right. At the like if you're the Omega cuck, that's like the worst cuck.
Well, John Byrne has gone on the record and said he didn't have. I mean, obviously he had plans for 2 members of Beta Flight, but the rest of them he's like, I don't know, I just drew some people. But one of them in Gamma Flight actually becomes not like a major character or anything, but he's in Age of Apocalypse. He's in a fair amount of X-Men stories. He's a member of X Factor, Wild Child. The like more. He's like a small little feral Sabretooth. He's the little guy in Gamma Flight with blonde hair. I'm like, yep, that's him. Humble beginnings for this classic character.
Right. Well, he's not really in this too much, so
no, it's literally it's one drawing of him and just like, I don't know, he's got blonde hair.
So Vindicator is kind of mad. He's going by Vindicator at this point, the leader of the team. He's kind of mad at the fact that this is all done. He's a little bit worried about finances, but he's like, well, my wife Heather has a good job, but I'm pretty sure the rest of the Alpha Flight team will be okay, but I don't really know about the Beta Flight and Gamma Flight guys. Like that's might be a little tough for them. And he's like genuinely kind of like kind of worried about life right now. Has a nice moment with his wife at home, but then he's got to go deal with some problem. Some big monster named Tundra is rising up out of nowhere. I don't remember how he learns about it, but his wife is like, oh, I know he can't contact Alpha Flight, but maybe I can access this old computer to like contact everybody, like this secret computer where they put in a floppy disk for each member and enter a password. I love that you have to like manually signal each person with a floppy disk.
I really hate team formations like this, though.
Yeah.
Like, I know Avengers did this, and even, like, Fantastic Four 1 did this, like, I'm putting the call out to each person to join us. And it doesn't feel, like, very organic. Like, I would prefer it if, like, 6 different heroes all showed up, and we're like, what the fuck are you doing here? You're doing here? You're here, bro? Cool, let's team up. So
that kind of happens, too, where all the other members of... So Vindicator's wife doesn't have the discs. They've all been destroyed already, because Alpha Flight is done. But she does find 2 discs from the beta team for Puck and Marina. And she's like, I don't recognize them, but I'm sure they'll be fine. So she signals them. But all the other members of Alpha Flight kind of show up to this thing anyways. Like, they all have their own way of learning about it, which, I don't know. I don't even remember if they actually mentioned them. It just feels like everybody showed up. I was like, wait, what? And after they fight this thing... So they don't all immediately show up. Marina, we should mention, is like a sea monster, like an amphibious cat, not a monster, like an amphibious type of character. I don't know. What else can we say about her right now?
She gets a bigger origin in the 3rd issue.
Yeah. Puck is what country was he from?
He's like Tiny Wolverine.
Tiny Wolverine, yeah. He loves to have a fight. He's got a mouth on him, but he's also kind of fun. He's definitely the comic relief here.
He's got He's very hairy.
Very hairy.
And he's kind of like D-Man, which I guess is not a really great reference if you don't know who Puck is. I know D-Man. He's basically got like a circus costume, like a weightlifter's costume, and there's got a big old bee on it.
He's a little person. And he is looking for a plane because did we figure out where he lives? I don't remember. Like, I get the impression it was like Scotland or something. Like he's a Scottish person.
I mean, he's in Canada. I'll tell you that much.
He gets to Canada. Like, he has to get on a plane to get there.
What? What are you talking about?
Doesn't he? He's like, look. He says, I gotta find me a plane.
Yeah, but that's because he has to go up to the northwest where the bad
so
guy
he was
is.
still in Canada for whatever reason. Like, him being in a pub, there was something about him and his name that just, like, gave me the impression that he was in Europe. I don't know why. I really was like, boy, how's he going to get to Canada?
No, I'm pretty sure he's in Canada.
Okay,
he just isn't able to get to... And he goes to, like, a government, the old Alpha Flight training area or whatever. They're like, we shut that program down, and also you're not in Alpha Flight? So...
Yeah. He doesn't make it to this boss fight in time, but the rest of the team, they beat this Tundra guy, and they're all hanging out in someone's house afterwards, and like, you know what, we should still be a team anyways, even if the government isn't running it. But like, we should pick a new name because there's not going to be a Beta Flight or a Gamma Flight anymore, so Alpha Flight definitely doesn't make any sense. And Puck finally shows up, and he's like, what? I busted my ass to get here and be an Alpha Flight. We're going to keep fucking Alpha Flight. That's what it is. So that's the origin of the team. And they've got 8 members, which seems like a lot. Like, somebody, I feel, should die pretty soon. That's not a spoiler. Nobody dies in these issues that we're reading. But I feel like, hopefully, one of these fools should die because it's kind of too many.
It's kind of like, it's not like Ecstatics where people legit do die and the team changes like quite radically issue to issue. But this just feels like low-rent X-Men to me. Like, at this point, it's like, we've got a cast of 8. Not all of them are going to show up every issue. The team will be mildly fluid.
Right. And 9 if you count Heather, who's basically a member, even though she doesn't have any powers. Like, she's in every... Well, I don't know if she's in every issue, but she's a major character in Alpha Flight, which is Guardian's wife.
Yeah. Boy, I have so few notes for the rest of this thing, because I found myself just kind of like, all right, they're like going around doing stuff, but I don't know why any of it matters. Okay,
Kia, like, I'm not going to disagree with you. This whole book felt like it felt like, why am I just not reading X-Men instead? It felt like X-Men, but not as good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have weird references, but like, there was Stargate, and then there was Stargate Atlantis, and Stargate Atlantis was like a spinoff, and it felt basically just like more Stargate with just a less likable cast. So I was like,
Right.
okay. I mean, I watched it, but I was like, I don't care much about this. That's what this feels to me. It's like, I mean, Puck is cool, but Puck's not in every issue. Marina's interesting. I don't care about Vindicator / Guardian.
Yeah, he is the worst one. Like, I guess he's kind of the Cyclops, so maybe that's kind of by design.
Yeah, he really is.
But I'm like, man, this guy's a wiener, and I don't like him at all.
Such a damn wiener. I hate him.
But yeah, I do think it's worth pointing out. I mean, John Byrne wrote and drew this. There's a lot of X-Men in this. He's also channeling some Fantastic Four and like Silver Age stuff, because like Tundra is, I mean, he's like 100-foot tall ice monster, and so it is very cool. And he does some cool stuff with scale in this first issue, which is double-sized.
I really did like those big splash pages with the monster waking up, and like it had some really neat art.
Yeah, and like the we'll get to it. The alien stuff has some cool,
like we can just get right to it. I think the aliens.
Like I feel like there's a lot of like Jack Kirby and some Fantastic Four, but some like pre-Fantastic Four. Like, well, I want to do like big sci-fi stuff from when I was a kid. Kind of sense in this where it's. I mean, like he directly in the flashback is like the Fantastic Four is formed. Wow, we should make our own. Where it's like literally that level of like plugging in Alpha Flight into Jack Kirby's Marvel universe. So. Yeah. It's very self-evident, and Invisible Girl and Namor do show up in this story too. So
yeah, I don't know why we didn't need them.
Because I was reading apparently the issue of Fantastic Four that he had done. In between that, he's like, well, I guess I can just have these cross over, because he was also writing and drawing Fantastic Four at the same time, which is crazy. Yeah. That he was writing and drawing 2 books basically by himself.
That's a lot of work. Holy cow. Oh, man. All right. Well, so this issue number 2, we got some training going on, and Marina, the amphibious water lady, she goes a little bit crazy. She's like, don't fucking touch me! And she turns all alien-like, and her eyes are, like, weird, and she goes a little monstrous. Again, really cool art here. And she, like, runs away, swims away, eventually finds this bad guy called the Master. I think that's actually the cliffhanger here for this issue. Yeah. I don't remember anything that happened in between. What happened here?
I think we get her origin story, which is like somebody found an egg in the North Pole, basically, and then she hatched out of it and became like sort of a normal girl, but she's also green and has like gills and is a good swimmer and everything. But then as she got older, she became like super good.
Yeah.
So
this issue also had a backup in it where we get the origins of Alpha Flight, like as Guardian is kind of getting involved in this government project. I don't know. It was fine, I guess, but again, he's a wiener, and I don't care about
Yeah. Vince and I were talking. It's funny. A lot of I think Chris Claremont gets blamed for a lot of the like Kitty Colossus stuff, where it's like Kitty is like 13 years old or 14 years old, and you're like, ew, no. But here,
Heather. The next issue, but yeah.
Yeah, Heather was still the same flashback. Heather is working at the research facility that Hudson gets fired from, and she's like, "Well, I quit too." And then she's like, "Hey, do you want to go out on a?"
She busted him, and then he was like, "I'm probably going to go to jail for this." And he goes, "If we're married, then I can't be called to testify against you." And I texted Chris, I'm like, "Is this legally true?"
Yes. But before that, she's like, let's go on a date. I'll take your mind off things. And he's like, no, thanks. And then later she's like, if we were married, then I couldn't testify against you. And he's like, how old are you? And she's like, 17. I'm like, what is going on? Why?
Like, he's an established dude at his office. He has to be at the earliest late 20s. But probably, I mean, he's drawn like how he is, 6 years later, because they show like a time span. I don't understand why. Like, so he's like, let's just say he's 34 dating a 17-year-old.
I'll say 25 just to be very charitable. But yeah, and she's 17. Like, no.
They're both highly capable in their field. They can just both be the same fucking age.
Yeah. It's also, like, in general, it is the most uninteresting flashback I've ever seen. It reveals nothing, and it's just like, oh, okay, sure, fine, cool.
The flashback about Marina's birth was more interesting.
It was. Yeah.
A lot more interesting.
The next issue, Marina's trapped by this, the Master fellow, who seems to think that, like, you know, she's an alien, and so it's her destiny to take over the world, so he thinks he's being a good guy by getting rid of her, something like that, right? That sound about right?
I mean, sort of. I mean, basically, she was part of a failed alien invasion where they were going to send all of these, eggs to a world and then, like, bond with whatever the dominant life form is. But her ship, got screwed up somehow. So the invasion, I guess, is not going to happen. But they still had a spaceship that had all this advanced technology. He shows up there and is like, oh, cool. And so the spaceship, like, experiments on him, and now he has, connected to the spaceship. So he is, like, this 1,000-year-old human-like guy. But it seems like he has a plan, like, he's going to use her somehow. But he doesn't really explain how.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that.
Well, I mean, he's so, like, visually boring because he's just, like, drawn just sitting, like, in a robot chair.
His name is what bothers me. Like, the Master. I feel like I've met another the Master before. Doctor Who. Yeah.
There's a Master of Tasks. He's the
Taskmaster.
Master
like,
Mold.
Master, I don't like that name.
So you don't like the Joaquin Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman movie by Paul Thomas Anderson?
You know.
I've never seen it.
It's like I like all the scenes and all the individual pieces of that movie and all the acting and generally all the writing was fine, but as a whole, the movie I was like, whatever.
That's how I feel about The Joker, also starring Joaquin Phoenix. That's my review.
You know,
everything works on paper, and then I'm like, it wasn't fun. Actually, I enjoyed it. It just wasn't fun.
There was a funny fake trailer of the Joker where they just put in scenes of the Master, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty funny.
that works, I think. I haven't seen the new Joker trailer even, but I would imagine that works pretty well.
Yep. So, Flame, he does come back in Kurt Busiek's Avengers run, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? Because I had not heard of him before, and I guess he's kind of one of their main antagonists. You also find out, I guess I forget what they're called, but there's these ancient, like, geological type monsters, and Tundra is just one of them. So they all come back. But yeah, the Master is kind of a recurring villain for them, and I'm like, I don't really like him. He's definitely in the, like, Mr. Sinister or whatever, like, guy sitting in chair style of villain.
He reminds me of, God, who's one of those early villains who would, like, calculate everything down to the second that everybody would be doing something.
The Thinker.
The Thinker. He reminds me of that, like, just that similar name of, like, somebody who's super high on themselves and supposedly has some great plan, but I don't know who they are and I don't care.
Yeah.
I love that the Thinker, by the way, is able to, like, calculate down to the second what Mr. Fantastic would do based on, you know, or, like, whatever villain he's fighting based on their personality traits and blah, blah, blah. But they're never able to, like, deduce the superhero's secret identity. Like, if you know that much about people, you really should know everything about them, right?
I mean, at first he was a Fantastic Four villain, so...
Was he? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they weren't trying to hide it from him.
Right, they weren't.
And then he is very influential in the New Warriors, and I think knew all of their identities, so, or at least most of them.
Good for you, Thinker. You've been thinking. Good for you.
So he's not so dumb. He also created Awesome Andy, so good for him.
Yeah, that guy's cool.
So then we also find out another kind of weird thing is Aurora is, I mean, like, she's got multiple personalities.
Yeah.
And so her, like, school marm personality comes out the second she gets in any trouble, and her school marm personality is useless. So she's immediately like, I don't know you people. Like, what's going on? And she's also French all of a sudden. So they're like, what's going on? And then, of course, and Sasquatch especially is like, well, I feel like this would have come up when we had sex. And she is like offended that she slept with him because she like thinks of Aurora as this like thrill-seeking like hedonist who she hates. So she's doesn't respond well, and he's like, "Come on, you know me," and it, like turns into naked, in his underwear, human form. She does not react well.
No, doesn't like it. Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't get any of that from the first couple of issues. We also get Guardian, who... Okay, so Vindicator was his name because he made a bunch of mistakes and he had to vindicate them. But another one of his teammates is like, well, I feel like you've done that now. You can just be like a leader. You can be like a real Guardian. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll be a Guardian.
It says it's Shaman who says that, and I'm like, are you making fun of Shaman just talking like?
Oh no, was it Shaman? I don't remember. I'm just talking like Dopey is what I was going for. I genuinely don't remember who was. I thought it was Sasquatch.
I think it was Shaman, but anyway, he's also the least interesting character. He performs surgery on Puck, but then he doesn't go with them on the mission. And I'm already like, I'm tired of this guy. Like Snowbird is kind of cool, and like her origin seems connected to his. But I'm like, she's the better character. Like, get out of here with this Shaman
She
stuff.
can turn into a bear.
Yeah, I like her powers are visually really cool, and there's also like this weird mystery where she is like pretending to be like a park ranger or something, and then immediately disappears from that job like the second there's any trouble. And I'm like, what is wrong with this lady? Like, it's not that hard a job. So like I like her a lot better than Shaman or Guardian or who are the other lame members. Sasquatch is okay, I guess.
North Star also doesn't do anything. I feel like nobody does anything except for turn into a bear and swim like an alien. And that's all anybody does in this.
And also credit for North Star's powers is that she becomes a bear and like thinks like a bear, which I'm like, okay, I guess that's cool. Instead of just like being Beast Boy, where she's just in the form of whatever, but she's just pretending to be it for some elaborate prank. She's like, no, I have to like fully inhabit the role of an Arctic wolf or an owl or whatever I've decided to turn into. But it also has to be from the Northwest Territories of the Yukon or whatever.
Yeah. To be the bear, I must be the bear.
Yeah,
that's my panel of the week though. Her transforming like an Animorphs cover.
Yeah, it's good. That's good.
Like I said, she's like the best one. I'm like, this is all, and she's also when she fights Storm, it's really fun too. Where she's like, "Can you deal with the power of a giant owl?" Like she probably can, but that's cool.
That does remind me. I know we have our over under about Canadianisms. Oh, also stick around after this. We're going to talk about All Star Superman number 10. I really got to remember to mention that at the beginning of the show. Okay, so we got our over under for Canadianisms. I feel like I didn't see any of them. Did you guys see any?
Puck is the most like he dropped some A's. Mm-hmm. But he's the only one, and I would say, I mean, I wasn't counting, but I would say it's like 2 or 3.
It wasn't much. There was when Aurora was in her original identity. When she gets snapped into that, she does speak with a French accent, though. So that is cool. I do not like that person.
Does that count as a Canadianism?
It's very Quebecois, so I'm gonna say yes.
Great. Sure. What numbers did we see?
But I don't know if we had our criteria really didn't go into like, was it number of lines that way or was it like number of characters? Because she basically just did that in one scene. And our over under for how many times an accent is spelled out. Kia, you had 20. Chris had 3, and I had 10. So I'm not gonna say like she spoke with like a very obvious like regionalized accent. I would say, but only for one scene. So even though it was spread across multiple panels, I would count that as one. So.
I feel like you're right. I feel like you're right about that. And I think Puck maybe, like you said, mentioned it 2 or 3 times at the most. Yeah. Chris takes it in a landslide victory. Oh boy, Chris, good job.
Chris, did we mention he's going to be our representative to take on the other comic book podcasts?
So we got Sue Storm and Namor showed up at the end of 3. We're kind of like mixing 3 and 4 at this point a little bit.
It's fine. It's the same story, just cut in half, really.
In 4, they show up. The whole place explodes or something. I don't know.
I like the beginning though, because like Sue Storm goes, "Remind me again," and then like that's their recap of like the previous issue. I like that. I like that story device, and I also like the editor's note. No, John hasn't confused Fantastic Four with Alpha Flight, because I guess Byrne was probably in or around Fantastic Four at this time.
Yeah, he was like I said, he was also writing and drawing that book, so it's crazy.
There is some really cool cosmic art happening here, and I like all the explosion scenes that happen later. I thought were really good. It does feel like half of the team is here and half of the team is not for just no reason whatsoever. Like I don't really know. It doesn't feel like they were naturally separated.
And like as much as I like Susan and Namor like pairing up, like this is they have a lot of screen time in issue 4, and they do come off kind of cooler than most of Alpha Flight, where like they have that dramatic reveal where he's like, "Well, I'll just have to take over your brain, Marina," and then Susan and Namor just like pop into frame, and they're like, "Oh no, you don't," and you're like, "What the hell are they doing here?" And so they have like a 6-page explanation for how they got there, and it's neat. But at the same time, it's like they have their own book, or at least Sue does, and Namor's in that one. So like, why are they taking over Alpha Flight?
Yeah, I don't know.
To get you to buy Alpha Flight because you don't give a shit about anything.
I guess. Why isn't Spider-Man going to Canada then? If that's the standard. Like, Peter Parker, we need you to take pictures of the Trudeaus. One of them is wearing blackface a lot, and we're very concerned about it.
Oh, the PM's son is doing that. Oh, what a story.
So I'm sneaking a peek ahead at like 5 and 6 and the next few issues that we didn't read, but the covers look pretty cool. 5 is Puck like doing a bunch of acrobatics and stuff. And then 6, we're talking about John Byrne like writing and drawing 2 comics a month, and number 6 has a very cool, like, it's called Snowblind, it seems, and it's got Snowbird, like, on kind of a blank white cover. And I'm flipping through this thing, and it seems like at some point the snow gets so overpowering that we can't see anything. It's literally pages and pages of just white, except with word balloons and sound effects and stuff, which like has a neat effect. But now that I realize it's just John Byrne like taking it a little easy that month, it sounds great to me. That's really
clever.
funny.
That's really clever.
Yeah. It looks like I'm reading this thing that's referencing a letters column where he says that he got the idea in that joke issue of What If we talked about, where they said what if Alpha Flight all had stereotypical Canadian accents, and there was a joke that was what if Silver Surfer, White Tiger, Knight Rider, Iceman, and Moon Knight fought Wendigo in a snowstorm.
That's pretty funny.
So yeah, I do think. I mean, I haven't read the story yet. It looks cool though. Like you can tell.
It does look very cool. Yeah.
You can tell there's something there, which is a neat effect of like, I don't know how exactly they did it, but like it's not like he's drawing nothing. Like it's just that it's very obscured. Like you kind of have to look hard to see like what the hell is going on. So that's cool. I guess, are we to final thoughts of the story yet?
I guess so. I feel like I gave him out already. There's nothing else for me to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's some interesting art ideas in this book, and I think the new characters are pretty well designed. I don't really love the old characters design, like Vindicator I think is kind of crappy. Mm-hmm. And like Shaman is a very like Justice League Super Friends looking costume design. So I don't like those 2 designs very much, but North Star and Aurora look cool, and the new characters look cool. And then visually, I think Byrne's doing some cool stuff, which is almost enough to make me want to like just explore it while he's still drawing it, which I think is for about 2 years. He might have some fill-ins, but that's about all I can say to recommend it. Like the writing, I don't think is very good.
Yeah.
No, I think it's terrible. Well, it's not. I mean, it's terrible. Like I check out. Like I frequently would check out from this book. Like,
yeah,
just,
me
like,
too.
I'm not interested in it. I think though, like once, like there was some interesting stuff. Marina was interesting. Her backstory was interesting. Master was not. And then when the Fantastic Four showed up, I was like, at least and it really was just Sue and Namor. I was more interested because they were people I know, and I don't think this book did anything to justify like knowing these characters or wanting me to know the new Alpha Flight characters. Like aside from Puck, and a little bit of Snowbird and Marina, I wasn't interested in anybody's deal. Like I wasn't.
Well, look, we've got 8 characters that we barely know, and you spend the first few pages of one of these issues just focusing on Namor and Sue instead of building up your current characters. It's like
SNL. Huh?
Yeah, sure.
It is like that.
With its stunt casting.
Also run by a Canadian.
Oh. Collusion.
Collusion between Alpha Flight and SNL.
30 years removed.
Yeah.
Like
I knew it.
But yeah, that's about it. Nothing else to say about Alpha
Canadian
Flight.
Thanksgiving. Y'all deserve a better team.
Yeah, and Puck is funny, but he's also just like Wolverine. Like everything I like about him is like, he's already in that other guy who I like better.
Yeah. So let's jump over to All-Star Superman number 10. How about that? We get it's all about Superman. It's Superman's death is real imminent in this. He's got this sun poisoning here. He's recording his last will and testament, talking about how the time traveler Samson told him he'd accomplished 12 great feats, and he thinks he's only done 7 so far. One of them that he specifically mentions is to create life, which, it's unclear whether that means directly creating like offspring or some of these other weird cities he's created. He's also sweating, which feels a little weird to him. Like you can see the dead skin cells floating off his body. He mentions later. It's kind of like, damn, that's fucking deep right there for Superman to be able to see like the death falling off of his body. Like, damn, that hit me right there. We got Leo Quintum going into the bottle city of Kandor. It's that tiny little city that's in a bottle. But it's not. What's the city? The other city or like universe that Superman has created in the cube? What was that called?
Earth Q.
Earth Q. That's right. And he's just kind of like dealing with that, like thinking about these people and what it means to be alive, all that kind of stuff. It was an interesting issue. It feels like a very plot light issue. It's kind of all over the place here.
This is, but like 3 or 4 things are happening, which it was just atypical for All-Star Superman. As we get into the final kind of like the end game of the book, I'm liking it though. Yeah, because like he knows he's dying, but he's also dealing with this bottle city of Kandor, which is ostensibly like the main part of the issue, but the like the kind of like D plot that's been permeating through the whole series is now having to come to a head. So that's taking over more and more page count.
Yeah.
And Leo Quintum, who we know because we've established him over several issues, is like getting more agency through the book, and he's doing more with that plot than Superman, which is interesting. Like he's like in a previous issue, I feel like Superman would have been the one doing those congressional hearings and talking to everybody.
Right.
But
basically they're like, hey, Bottle City of Kandor, I think we have a way to restore you to full size and bring you to like Earth. But
they're like, we're all Kryptonians, and there's like hundreds of us. Like we're gonna fuck up Earth. Like that's not a good idea.
And plus, we like got our own thing going here. Like we are a little city, What do we need them for?
And he's like, and Superman's like, why don't we? Oh, I don't even think. Why did I just not put them on Mars? That would have been easy. You could have just broken the bottle and let him go out on Mars, just run around Mars.
Yeah,
he does.
Apparently, Superman's like making some weekly trips to these children's hospitals and stuff, taking them for rides, flying around in the school bus, that kind of thing. And he takes at the end of this book, he takes the little tiny people from the Bottle City of Kandor there, and like lets them kind of fly around as tiny people, right?
Well, yeah, to cure their, health issues.
Oh, that's what I thought it was, just for fun. Okay, that makes sense. Great.
Yeah, because they help. They try to stop Superman's like cellular degradation, and like they're able to fight it off for a while. But they're like, "We failed you, Superman. We can't do this forever." And he's like, "That's okay. Like, you just bought me some time, and in the meantime, you can help these people. And then just you see him like at a children's cancer center type place.
Yeah.
But it's like little Superman helping things, like helping suicidal jumpers, like that kind of stuff, and giving them hugs. Like it's very it's good.
Yeah, that gets those two like that page and those panels get brought up all the time, and like the individual scenes that make people cry lists. Like it's very sweet of him, like telling her you're stronger than you think you are. So it's cute.
We also get a little scene of him going to Lex Luthor and being like, all right, listen, I'm about to die, so like put up or shut up. You always said you'd be able to do great things if I wasn't around, so what are you going to do, huh? I know there's some good in you. Freaking do it. And Lex Luthor just spits at the glass. What an asshole. What an asshole, this guy.
Well, I mean, great till they gotta be great. That's what I always say.
Yeah. Why is he reading a book about increasing your brain power? Like, does he believe in these scams? Is that how he got so smart? He's playing that like Nintendo DS game that's gonna make
brain training.
Make your brain.
He's got the brain age of a 24-year-old.
Good for you, Lex Luthor. That's so cool.
Wow, that must be how he did it. That's his origin story. Is he had a Nintendo DS?
Lots of Sudoku, and I could be a supervillain. I can't wait.
Exactly.
That's really what's holding you back here.
Yep.
The plot of Joker. That was mostly his origin. It was just Joaquin Phoenix sitting around, and then once he figured out Sudoku, the Joker was born. That's how it happened.
Good
spoiler alert.
Amazing.
Yeah. The actual 1 to 9 series of numbers is society. So.
Oh shit! I'm gonna put society in its place and make sure it doesn't repeat in any rows or columns.
Or within its own square.
Yeah. Okay, so what else happens? Oh, we got a little scene with Lois where she's like, "What's going on with you, Superman? Leo quit him, told me you were dying." He's like, "Oh, damn, he told you." He's like, "We'll talk about it later."
And then Clark wrote his obit already.
Yeah, he said, "I leave to Clark Kent," in like the last Will Testament, "I leave to Clark Kent the greatest headline of all time." And then we see the headline, "Superman dead," by Clark Kent. What? Is Superman really dead? How did Clark Kent write that if Superman's dead? This doesn't make no damn sense.
I assume he's gonna arrange like a like Superman robot dressed as Clark to like comically embarrass himself in a way that he dies, where no one will put together like, hey, didn't he die the same week Superman did? They're like, yeah, but he like fell into that open manhole and then broke all his bones, so actually, he couldn't have been Superman.
In my idea would be that Superman would just stop being Superman and only be Clark Kent for a little while until Clark Kent just kind of dies. And that way it's like, okay, there's enough time in between it where Clark dies of his own way later. Where Superman... No?
I think just a robot dressed like Clark like falls into like a wood chipper, and they're like, well, I guess that's the end of Clark. Like, because he's so klutzy in this version. Mm-hmm. He would just like slide on a banana peel.
I mean, he was when Superman was missing in Bizarro World for a while. Clark was like said he was hiding under like a piece of a rock or something.
Yeah, and everyone was like, "Yeah, that sounds right." Idiot.
So why is he such an idiot? Why did I also just don't like Superman? I don't like Clark Kent writing stories about Superman. I don't like it.
No.
Yeah. It is a conflict of interest. He should disclose that. You're right.
It feels like some journalistic lack of integrity. Mostly because, again, Superman Earth 1 by JMS has a whole article that's very poorly written about Clark Kent interviewing Superman. It's written like in Rolling Stone style. Where it's like, I'm riding in a thing with Superman, and we're talking at a coffee shop. He looks down, and I'm like, this is bullshit writing, and I hate it.
I feel like the journalistic integrity of Clark Kent would demand that every article he writes about Superman should start with a disclaimer that he is Superman.
Or anyway.
And that would make sense. All right.
I mean, that's why I like Peter Parker. He just takes the pictures.
Yeah.
And he never says, "I am not Spider-Man." in those pictures.
I feel like maybe he has said, "I'm not Spider-Man" once or twice in his time.
Yeah, but that may be true. But if you read those Steve Ditko Spider-Man issues, he also says, "I am Spider-Man," like a lot of times. He's constantly like telling the villains, telling other people, and they don't believe because Peter Parker is such a wiener that they're like, "No, impossible."
I always remember that from the animated series. It's one of my favorite Sinister Six moments, where it's like the commercial break is coming and he's about to get unmasked, and then after the commercial break, they unmask him. They're like, "Ah, shit, we've been tricked. This ain't Spider-Man."
Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Episode 2, season 2. Yep, good time.
There you go.
Will be available on Disney Plus.
What?
Wow.
What? Get out of here,
Yep.
corporate stooge.
Can't wait not to watch that.
I know, right? I stand for that show, and I've been like, it is way better than the X-Men cartoon, and I don't want the evidence to prove me wrong. But
Yeah, I don't know about that. Neither of them are looking great, but
Honestly, I've tried to watch them both fairly recently. They're both pretty terrible.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into that. We were young and we loved it. That's all that matters.
now that Fantastic Four cartoon from the 90s. Perfect. No.
we have a friend who played Century on that.
Okay, I feel like this episode needs to wrap up before we say something we can't take back. What are we doing next time here? We're talking
All-Star
about
Superman 11.
Yeah, All-Star Superman 11. And, it's the spooky season. It's Halloween time. Coming up. We got Locke and Key. Yeah, it's a horror comic, which I've always wanted to read. Written by Joe Hill, a.k.a. Stephen King's son. What was his real name? Joe Hillcroft?
Joe Hillstrom King.
Hillstrom. Joe Hill is what he goes by, his author name, so that he doesn't feel like he's riding his dad's coattails. He's written some novels, and this horror series, from everything I've heard, is supposed to be pretty good. I've just never read it. I'm excited to check it out. Art by Gabriel Perez.
Rodriguez.
Was it Gabriel Rodriguez? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. And
Lock and Key, Volume 1, Welcome to Lovecraft. I guess that's issues 1 to 6.
Yeah. I feel like this thing didn't even have like an ongoing series. It's just like a bunch of miniseries, maybe. But it's like definitely the first volume of whatever it's called.
That could be it. You might be right. It may not have actually explicitly had its issues, like 17 to 21 or anything.
Right. I think it's like Lock and Key, Welcome to Lovecraft. Lock and Key, the next storyline. Lock and Key, another miniseries, and I think those are the exact titles of them.
Yeah, the next one.
The next. So I'm excited to check it out. And then we got even more spooks in line for you coming up later this month. Whoa, I can't wait. Spooky time. But I think we're done here. Vince, Chris, y'all got anything y'all want to plug?
Oh, yeah, actually, I do. I revived my YouTube series. That was a game for season 2. It's looking at basically forgotten video games on franchises you love. So I looked at a 3D Toy Story game. So, but it's for the Game Boy Color, so it doesn't make any sense. Toy Story Racer, but basically with the power of an original Nintendo, but in 3D with like ramps and like 3D rendered backgrounds. It's fucking weird. Check that out on the All My Friends Are Right Here YouTube channel.
Okay. Chris, what about Your Stupid Minds? What was it? We still waiting on that other episode you recorded?
Milk Money was good. I listened to that.
Yeah, it came out. Milk Money.
Okay.
It's very disturbing. It's a funny episode, though, making fun of a very wrong-headed movie that proves that Hollywood is run by perverts.
Right.
Well, and apparently comics are, too.
Yep.
I don't know if run by, but they sure do work in comics. So yeah, that's it's a fun one, and we should have a Halloween themed episode, but it will be out in probably 3 or 4 weeks. So
I love spooks.
So we'll probably have another episode of this before that comes out, but it'll be fun.
Great, cool. In between now and the next episode, I might carve a pumpkin. I'll let you know. That's it. Thanks for listening to the show. Vince, I love you. Thank you.
Love you too.
Chris, I love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, shit. All right. Bye, spooky people. Happy Halloween. Happy October month. See you next time. Bye.